Do we need to start recording or no?
No, you've started it.
We did. Should I stop?
Welcome, everybody. I hope you can hear me, and thank you all for joining us at our fourth webinar in the 2020 dotBrand Vision series. I can see a number of friendly faces that have joined us before. I also welcome some new faces, so good to have you here. We'll be going through a presentation today regarding SEO and the dotBrand advantage. For those that haven't joined one of our sessions before, my name is Martin Sutton. I'm the Executive Director of the Brand Registry Group. The BRG is a non-profit organisation that is a membership organisation for dotBrand operators and those that intend to apply for dotBrands in the future. So what I am pleased to announce today is that we have a presenter that has been a digital marketer and SEO enthusiast for over 15 years, supporting industries such as wholesale distribution, banking, entertainment, and automotive lifestyles. And at 20th Century Fox, he was responsible for setting SEO standards for their worldwide theatrical and home entertainment digital marketing group. That is a bit of a mouthful, but that's what it was. But all their good work resulted in improving organic reach for their main studio site by 350%. After joining the .fox team, he continued to provide guidance on use and implementation of the .fox brand and continued SEO support for franchise titles like Avatar, Alien, and Predator before leaving Fox late last year. In addition, I'm pleased to say that Chris has been a continued supporter of the Brand Registry Group's Best Practices Committee, which he has continued to help out with and provide valuable input. He sees the value and potential that a dotBrand has in digital marketing, and as he says, he won't rest till dotBrand become an authoritative standard. So from his garage in sunny California, I'd like to welcome you to Chris Green. Over to you, Chris.
Can you guys hear me okay? Am I coming in clear? And unfortunately, it's not sunny today, it's foggy. Thank you. Thank you, Martin. And I'd like to say thank you to Peter and the Best Practices Committee on inviting me here to do this. And I want to thank the brand owners for joining this presentation as well. And I hope this presentation inspires and invigorates you to take more hold of your dotBrands. So let's begin. So by show of hands, well, I can't see your hands, but how many of you have grabbed your cell phone, right? Put in, typed a question, look for a direction, maybe an address, movie times. Oh, I'm sorry, wait, I'm sorry, that's the wrong question. What I should ask is, the real question is, what phrases do your audience people search for? SEO is a never-ending quest to always being there for your audience, and being a brand itself carries a lot of weight in this area. And again, as like I said, I hope this presentation kind of brings out and shows the value that there is an SEO essence to it. And so let's continue on. So let's start with what SEO is. It basically stands for search engine optimization. It's a way of conducting offsite marketing practices and implementing on-site web development standards. And the goal is always being there to create quantity and quality traffic to your websites through search engine results. What SEO is not, it is not pay-per-click. It's not paid. It's not a quick fix to your marketing solutions. It's not a guarantee. It's not 100% that it's going to solve all of your marketing issues. But so what we're going to cover here is we're going to discuss the importance of just having an internet presence in itself, and review the SEO practices and how to apply this to your dotBrand digital strategies. And then we'll also touch on too is a really interesting topic is also moving your legacy brands or your legacy TLDs to your dotBrand, which does have a lot of impact with, or can have a lot of impact with SEO. So as we start this, a brand, what is a brand? We all know this. It's something that symbolizes trust and identity. It has a specific value, and it's a way. It almost has like an organic feeling, that we can connect with a brand. And however strong this connection is, having a well-connected marketing life cycle really depends on how it meets the needs of your followers. So let's see, here we go. So if you think of like your customer's journey and how many different entry points and obstacles there are in regards to them making decisions and building a relationship with your brand, having an invested SEO strategy could give your brand that cognitive insight on how your audience is actually looking for you and discovering you. So that's not to say that SEO is like the end all be all of marketing needs. It's just another channel in your marketing tool set. So, as different channels, there's, excuse me, different channels. These users are your audience that are already thinking about you. That's what SEO is that this is a top of mind users that have questions that they're seeking out and looking to find them and discover you. And of course, search is not the only way that they could find you. We have all, the typical tools, just like social media. We've all experienced these professionally with these channels. Social gives you the ability to reach a mass audience as well as understand the sentiment or how they're perceiving the interpretation of your brand. And it's also the digital version, I'd say, of word of mouth, today. And it can have a great impact. Video platforms like YouTube and Vimeo are great channels for distributing video content. And of course, all these have great investments and models that can play all sorts of competing to capture your audience. Like brand ambassadors, that's like a kind of a new career for some people out there today. And, these are all vital and necessary for executing, your brand marketing plan. However, the one I think encapsulates everything is websites. In my opinion, this is the one area that gives higher significance that is always under your control. And I don't want to say that the capabilities are limitless. However, they're tied to your IT infrastructure, your capabilities, and your budgets. But what's special about websites is you have full creative brand control. So it's like when you take an example like social, it's a significant noise that could take away the attention from your audience. So the main entity driving the game in search is no other than Google. I'm sure everyone's aware that they dominate the market. We do have other search engines still out there. We got Bing still out there. Yahoo's still hanging around. Yeah, China has their own search, Baidu, and Russia has Yandex. And we got things getting bigger like DuckDuckGo. But Google has the market share. They currently own 92% of all searches. And since Google's in charge, we're going to take the focus on how Google likes to see things and what recommendations they have for organic search. So you can apply these practices to all the search engines because a lot of them are following Google's lead. So let's take into account how we use and access stuff on the internet. So mobile currently right now is one of the dominating features or devices to accessing the internet with just over 50% of the market there. Samsung, on the other hand, too, and Google, somewhat owning Android, they kind of have the market share as well. And Chrome, the Chrome browser, they're taking on the market share as well. And as we get further appreciation, you think that Google has search engines, they got browsers, they've got mobile, so they're kind of driving the game here. Don't respond. So what I want to take into account is the search engine result page and how much it's grown over the years. So let me do a little live example here. Look at this up. And Martin, could you confirm that you can see this, the two browsers here?
Can indeed, yes.
Okay. So
Thanks.
I did a quick search here on the best pizza recipes. And what I want to illustrate here is there's an actual difference, just a little bit of difference between desktop and mobile. And as you see, when we hit this, the first thing there, what Google's always want to do is give us the best results. So if I'm looking for recipes, it's going to list out recipes. And as you scroll down, this is when we start to get to the results, the organics. We got things here like a mobile, like little things called interesting finds. These are what they like to call zero index. This is before you get into the organics. And as you scroll down, you'll see that there's different, even like different results will show up in regards to the order. So for example, we got Bon Appetit, you got a couple of books and tasty. Some other searches for another examples here, like Bronco. Ford just released the new Bronco that's coming out on Monday, and you can see the differences in the organic search as well. One of the other caveats of search 2 is this area called the knowledge graph, and this is a way of getting your data from your sites into a panel here that will list all your profile information and things of that nature. One of the other areas too is this thing called the map pack, and this is heavily more along lines of location. So as you see down here, it's more of a mobile driven aspect to search, and it gives, based upon where you are and your location, it'll show you areas and stuff that show. Here's another area is like top stories. This is another area of getting into search before the organics, and we'll cover just a little bit on that later as well. So this is just a quick example of somewhat of the importance and leverage of being at the very top of a search engine page. It makes sense that, when you're looking for an answer, you want the first answer as quickly as possible, and being up at the top gives you a great click-through rate. And this is a comparison of looking at branded and non-branded terms for search when people are looking for you. So this is where SEO does, show some importance. So in regards to getting an SEO, tracking success is essential, right? And it goes, say, with every marketing plan. You want to be able to, set up your goals, analyze the metrics, make your changes, measure it, report it, and analyze again. It's a constant life cycle that continuously goes over and over. And the way you do that is you use tools like Google Search Console or Bing's Webmaster Tools. These give you insights into how your keywords and your site's impressions are showing up in search, as well as tracking tools. This is your on-site metrics of measuring engagement of people visiting your site, where they're coming from, what pages they're hitting, how long they're hanging around. Google Analytics and Adobe are one of the main competitors out there for this type of tracking, and they do plug into these search consoles to get your keyword metrics and be able to help you analyze. In addition to that, there's lots of SEO tools out there. Some of these are some of my favorites. SEMrush, which is more along the lines of, it helps you analyze paid traffic and also organic keywords, and helps you do keyword discovery on what you should be looking for. You have things like Moz, which is another one, and Ahrefs, which Ahrefs is more like a backlink. They're really into looking at who's pointing to you and how to analyze and help build and find opportunity in that area. So this is an example of the Google Search Console. It gives you breakdown of your keywords and their impressions, how often they're showing on a monthly, or depending upon the time frame that you set. And I'll show you the click-through rate to your site. It'll give you insights into what pages they land on, who's linking to you, what pages are linking to you. So it's a very, very important tool when it comes to SEO. And it's also another way of kind of like how you can communicate with Google by letting them know, when you add new pages, or, maybe you need to look at links that you don't want to follow you. You can use the Google Search Console to manage that. This is just a quick overview of Google Analytics and what kind of data it shows. It'll show you, this is basically giving you your channels on who's, visiting you, where they're coming from, how long they're hanging out. This is the plugin here. This queries is kind of an example of how it could plug into the Search Console to give you those metrics, and you can combine this data to make further SEO analysis. So Google's consistently spoken that there are more than like 200 major ranking signals, or even hundreds of different factors they determine on how your website or web page ranks. And this is what is known as the algorithm. And Google's constantly changing and updating and adapting its use. You know, their goal is to always give you the best answer, and they're always trying to find that. So let's take a look at a high level look at what some of these ranking signals are. So you're going to hear this a lot, that the number one goal is that you don't build or your sites or market your sites for beating the search algorithm, because it's not going to work. What you're doing is you want to build for your user experience. That's where your conversions are. If you're building great sites and providing great content, that's what's going to help you, especially for your users. It's also going to help you rank, and Google's going to notice that. So you want to build for your audience's intent. You want to follow the mobile guidelines that Google offers. You want to make sure that your site is usable, it's navigable, and you want to avoid a lot of that distraction like pop-ups and ads and things of that nature. So mobile first indexing, as I mentioned earlier, how mobile is, you know, pretty much number one. Google at that time, you know, they had two separate indexes. You had the desktop index and your mobile index. And as mobile started to grow, Google started to say, well, hey, you developers out there, you need to make sure that your sites are mobile friendly, that they, you know, work and work well, fit in the screen, and you know, work really well that way. So now we've gotten to this point where, you know, mobile is very dependent, and a lot of focus is going on development towards mobile. Google has stated that they're going to move all of their index to the mobile index. This was stated, you know, by John Mueller, that by September of this year, all the websites should be on a mobile first approach. So you need to take into account like website development on the mobile side, as well as local search, because local search is very impactful when it comes to mobile, because hey, they know where you are. Now we come into the page speed, and this is basically the concept of how long it takes for your page to load. And so you want to watch out for things that like big images or complex coding scripts, maybe not compressing your scripts. One of the cool projects that came out quite a few years ago, I think driven by Google, was AMP, and that was a way to create really fast, lightweight content pages. And typically it was more leveraged more on the publishing side, where, you know, you publish an article and these would actually get put up in that top stories section. And what's interesting, last month they've announced that that's going to no longer be a requirement for hitting the top stories. It's going to be more along the lines of how fast your pages load on mobile. Next thing is content. Like, this is really big factor, because this basically tells, you know, search engines what it is that you have to offer, you know, how to match those pages to certain queries. So this is where your keyword strategy comes in, and you need to really focus in on, you know, what phrases you want to rank for, what your users are going to be using to find you, right? So there's a whole approach to this thing, and it's a really important part of SEO, is making sure you have that. And, you know, again, creating content around your audience. And this is one of the things that I love about dotBrands is the URL. I mean, the URL used to be a really big signal, but it still kind of is, because you get that keyword in front that kind of tells search engines what you are, what you're trying to say. And with that brand, you have that advantage, because now you can actually create those actual keywords that you couldn't get anymore with like a .com or .net. Language is also important, you know, specifically being a global brand. You more likely support lots of language, so you want to be able to create content around those features. And then also geo-targeting, you know, kind of goes in with the language of being able to create content that resides to those certain areas that maybe you market and work in. And it also kind of lines up too with the mobile, being that, you know, your users are actually, they can identify where they're at. And you want your content to also be timely and evergreen, meaning you want the content to come up and then stay there too, as well as continuously add new and new content. So Schema.org is something that came out quite a few years ago, and it was a way of semantically giving insight into what a web page is. And this is a way of adding metadata to kind of isolate, like, you know, what am I looking at here? Am I looking at an article? Am I looking at an event? Am I looking at, you know, a recipe? Am I looking at a review? This is a great way of describing the content that's on the page to search. And as well as, this is what helps you get onto the knowledge graph area and to the top of Google, because now they have more of a straight way of really reading and understanding what the content is. Structure is a really big play. You want to make sure everything is siloed and falls into place and is easily crawlable. And you could do this with, you want to be able to do this with plain language URLs that specifically say the keywords straight out on what that site is. Using a sitemap. A sitemap is kind of like, it's a file that you would give to the search engines that it's kind of like a table of contents of all of your sites, so it helps them crawl and know what to crawl. And then you want to take care of all your on-page technical elements, like having the meta tags, which is another area of how to describe what's on the page, as well as header tags, giving highlight to the main contents or the main context of the site, which is, you know, if you think of like an article, that headline tells you what you're going to be reading. And of course, anchor text. This is the links that are on your page and who's linking to you. You want to make sure that those keywords and content phrases are in there as well. Backlinks is a really big thing, because this is what pretty much started SEO, is who is linking to you, what pages are linking to you. And you want to be able to go through this and see who they are and what their relevance is to your topic, as well as the quality of who they are. You know, everyone on the internet today is ranked. So by looking at what their value is, you can determine, like, hey, should they be linking to me? And this is also for giving awareness to you, because link building is a really big part of SEO, and this is going out and being able to get people to link to you. So PageRank is which really started it all. It's a weighted value from 1 to 10, and you know, back when SEO really started, or when organic search, it was basically whoever had the most links was usually the winner when it was related to keywords. But you know, as the games have changed and making it more towards the user and actually giving you real answers, how does it say it's moved over into like an industry standard calling the domain and page authority. And this is a weighted score that a lot of these tools will give insights to. So for example, like Microsoft is a very big known brand and been around for a very long time. So, you know, if you're in the certain area where you work with Microsoft and they're linking to you, that's a lot of authority that has been given down to you. And that's how this backlinks and linking works, is it passes authority back and forth. Social is a big driver as well too. You want to make sure that your social you know, profiles and posts are linking to you, as well as you're doing social marketing, you want to make sure that, you know, your posts are driving some digital engagement back to your site, because this also will continue the customer journey and kind of take them out of that noisy space and bring them into that brand curated content that you have. So as we talked about the algorithm, some of the big major changes just to be aware of is like Rankbrain. And Rankbrain was like a way for Google to apply artificial intelligence to be able to look at searches and compare what you know, what a search result is and how the users are using it, and kind of give weight to making sure that everything is correlated. It came out in like 2005, and you know, it's used to what would you say? It's part of the overall search algorithm in a sense, and it's an AI to kind of understand how and what people are searching for. The other thing that came out too was BERT, and this came out last year, and this was pretty interesting because it's a way for AI to understand what the actual words as they're placed in like a phrase, what they mean. So it gives more context to what it is that you're searching in and getting a better understanding of language, right? So another thing that's coming out too is Core Web Vitals. This was released May 5th of this year, and this is a new approach to that page speed and overall encompassing health of your website, right? And so you could actually go into the Chrome browser today and actually run these tests to see where you are. And it basically brings down like how fast your page is loading, the interactivity, and how it's laid out, and then the visual stability, if everything's lined up and accessible, and you get a weighted value, and they give you tons of recommendations on how to fix that. And it's being projected that this is going to be a new search signal in 2021, and you can find more information at web.dev. This is one of my favorite things that comes out of from search engine land every year. It's almost like a periodic table of elements. It's the periodic table of elements of SEO, and it breaks down all the areas and their weighted values in your SEO strategy. So as you can see, the green content is all about content. Content's always been the thing because that's where Google gets the answers from, right? And of course, it brings down into architecture, and then the code, and then you get the trust, and of course links, and then your user activities and stuff. And it's great to give you this idea of the things you don't want to do, right? So pay attention to that. You don't want spammy links linking to you, and you don't want to be content duplication or hiding or stuffing keywords, trying to cheat, because it's not going to work anymore. So the brand advantage. So I just want to say, through all of the conferences I've been to and professionals have asked about, GTLDs, that they've always said that it has no weight. They are not looking at what is right of the dot. So I just want to say the ideas expressed here, they carry no guarantees to improving your organic traffic to your organization. It's just some conceptual ideas. So the first one is the multi-domain strategy. I know a lot of us have this heavily brand-focused, very authoritative .com, and the idea here would be to break up some of the brand topics into multiple siloed sites, right? And of course, these would all link to each other, and you would still gain some of that leverage from your .com down to your brand topic sites, And the idea here with the multi-domain strategy is kind of to improve your real estate in search, as you're searching for, as people are searching for your brand, and having more than one domain in the results. So through some of this research, I came upon one brand. It's .ally, and they're a trusted financial services provider, to consumers, commercial and corporate customers, and they offer services like investments, mortgages, auto loans, checkings, lots of product offerings. And conceptually, related from a context perspective or entity, they could break up. One of the ideas here is to break up the brand architecture into individual areas in siloed sites, and one of the ideas here would be for, let me see what I'm trying to say. So like, for instance, here, say the phrase like, how can I buy stocks, right? That gains around 70,000 impressions a month in that search, right? And so when I was looking through this, they don't rank for that phrase in itself. So one of the things that could happen here is you could take like your stocks.ally and build some content and strategy around that to maybe capitalize on that search and drive that traffic maybe to conversion all the way up. So this is one idea scenario. This is what I see when I think of .brands. The other one is maybe even a microsite architecture, to where it's not necessarily like break them all up. These maybe be some landing pages for specific branding concepts and product offerings that you have, and maybe driving that traffic all the way up to Ally. And then over time, as SEO goes, you could develop some brand authority for each one of these sites, because SEO is not it's not turn it on and it works. It's a constant work effort over time. Yeah, so one other thing too to touch on is it could also be great for paid marketing landing spots to enforce your product offering and move it to conversion at your .com. So as a further example with like Ally, one of the benefits too is when you do the searches and you can see that brand TLD showing up and giving that more of that brand confidence in regards to search if you have sites that are indexed within Google on the brand side, the dotBrand side. The other thing I want to touch on too is progressive web apps. This is something that's been growing over the last few years, and it's a great way of building almost native-like web applications for how do you say it? They're small mobile style apps. They're actually websites, and what happens is, like for example, the Starbucks one, as you visit the site, you'll get an action to open it on your screen, to add it to your home screen, and then it goes into your inventory like it's an actual app. And what's great about this is that they're lightweight. You don't have to deal with the store. They're quick. You just throw them up on not throw them up, but quick installation. You don't have to worry about device coding, where it's like Android or iPhone, and it's a really great tool, because it's also great too, you got push notifications as well. So this is something that I think dotBrands could leverage in regards to specific areas of your product offerings. So these are some examples of some switches that happen with in regards to search, whereas like home KPMG, they launched in 2019, and as you can see, they had some nice continuous growth after moving to their dotBrand. Looking at Toyota, now Toyota still is still on top of their .com. However, when they launched their global Toyota, as you can see, they've had significant traffic growth ever since they've launched it. Home.CERN, this is CERN, the Hadron Collider. They launched their site, and you can see the differences here. And as they moved it, they still have traffic because they still leverage that CERN.ch for lots of subdomains as well, but you see that their traffic continued to move up with moving to the branded site. So we'll end this here with a quick run through on the legacies of redirecting to your brand. Basically is you got to come up with a plan. You got to do a site inventory on all your stuff, a technical inventory. You want to go through, get all your site maps updated. You need to set up redirects for all of your because your links are going to change. At the same time, you need to work with your marketing team on how you're going to continue your link building and creating content and continuing on with social media, and then also executing as well. Required tools, the number one thing is you need communication. Your teams need to work with IT management, marketers, your analytics departments, and using your analytics platforms, search consoles, and of course you need to give yourself time. And the first step again is like going through inventorying all of your content. You want to get all your site maps, you want to know all your pages, where everything is landing, what have you. So you need to obtain all the landing pages, right? This is how everyone is entering into your site. So you want to be able to collect that, and you maybe want to look back at like 30 to maybe 6 months, depending on the traffic volume and the uses of your site. Then once you've got that handled, you want to move on to the technical inventory. This is how your sites work. You want to make sure you get an inventory of your SSL certificates, because changing a domain, you're going to be changing SSL certificates. Take a look at how this impacts maybe your hosting providers as well as your DNS. And then setting up the most important part is the 301 redirects, because you've had this .com for so many years and you have lots of people pointing towards you. So you want to set up what's called a 301, and this basically is just a coded message that brings back or tells search, hey, this link is now moved over here. So you don't have to go and change all the links you have on the web. This 301 will help take care of that. And of course, this is an IT function that you'll work with your departments. And step 4, this is where you take your sitemaps, you've updated them all. This is that table of contents I was referring to, and you'll upload that through the search consoles to search engines so they know how to come back and crawl all of your sites. And then of course, marketing. There could be some traffic loss in this, as there is some sort of a risk, but however, as long as you continue to keep your marketing initiatives going, your link building and creating content, you should be able to make it through that. And as well, if you do see that, you could invest maybe in some paid advertising and move through to make up that traffic loss. So as with maybe you can even plan a launch event around branding a whole new entire site, or the new brand site. So to end this here, we kind of discussed, how SEO can fit to the brand and marketing strategy. Again, I emphasize that it's all about creating content for your users. It's not for the search engines. And always think mobile. And I always see that brands have tons of potential for use in the digital marketing space. It's amazing with the almost somewhat limitless names that you can use to meet some of the demands of your audience. And moving your legacy domain to dotBrand is completely possible as long as you've got the planning in place, the support, and the leadership. So with that, I want to thank you guys for hanging out with me for this presentation. If you guys have any questions, feel free to email me, follow me on LinkedIn. And again, good luck with your dotBrands. And Martin, I'm going to pass this to you, back to you.
Thank you very much, Chris. It's a complex area, and it's one of those that has often been the source of many discussions within the brand registry group and its members. So I'm sure that we'll probably create some questions from that. I'll just check the questions at this stage, but in the meantime, one of the things I did notice recently in some of the reports coming out from those that follow a lot of the dotBrand activity is much more sight of dotBrand domains that are emerging higher up in the list in Alexa rankings. So that's also interesting to see as more brands venture to use their top level domain. And that's also quite interesting to see. Some of them have been affected by the pandemic, where they've registered domains relating to COVID or the coronavirus, and it's on specific types of services or product that they help provide to consumers that has really launched their domain into the Alexa rankings. So I think .sharp is the one that has recently been called out on that. So it is interesting to see those sorts of elements. So do please feel free. I've got a few questions queued up here. So sort of a cheeky little question here. Chris, are you recommending that that brands go out and get a dotBrand?
I will. I mean, if you can. I mean, when are we going to be able to do that? I mean, yes, I would recommend that. I think in regards to naming conventions and the future as we move forward in the internet, I do think that it'll have tremendous value.
Okay, and as you've gone through the presentation there, you've tried to link, what is a general landscape, which is, whatever you've got, whether it's a dotBrand or not, it's still relying on legacy domains. Is there any situations that you can think of where it would be a disadvantage to use a dotBrand in relation to the SEO topic that you've covered today?
The only disadvantage would be is executing it without a really strategic brand plan, because you have to think that with your .com that you've had for, gosh, you know, who knows, 10, 20 years possibly, and all the content that you have there, splitting it up and moving it around does take some risk, and you'd have to weigh that value there, in seeing is like, would it be beneficial if I were to break it out? If I was in charge of a dotBrand, I would probably take that approach very small and slow, right? And kind of leaving that .com to resonate. I'd probably use it over maybe the next, next couple of years, maybe starting to experiment and play with what we can do with our sub products and sub brands. I mean, that's what the approach that I would take.
And I suppose it does, on the back of that, it does provide that flexibility. So I just mentioned the COVID examples that have been flagged in as drawing attention to Alexa rankings, but not everybody can go out and get COVID.com or COVID.org, but all those brands could have COVID.brand. So the flexibility is straight in there to do something very responsive easily.
I mean, that's a good point that you also hit on there too, because when you think of like trends, one of the things that I kind of left out of this presentation was like Google Trends is a great tool for leveraging, to see what people are searching for, like topics, and it gives you kind of somewhat an insight on how, I wish I could show an example real quick, but Google, what am I trying to say? It gives you an insight into certain search topics, so you could find hot topics and maybe even create content around that. So for top of mind example, I'm working on a project right now with the Ford Bronco community, and that's probably a really hot topic right now, is that reveal that happened on Monday. So something like that, like a .Ford could maybe make content around that and be able to leverage insight from there. So I get what you're saying with like the coronavirus, where that was I'm sure everyone's been searching corona, and for .brands to capitalize on that, I think was a great idea.
So moving forward to a couple of other questions. So actually, yeah, it's a good thing that somebody's pointed out here. We had a previous presentation from KPMG where I think, like you, that there was this sort of safety or caution about a .brand creating anything better than anything else in terms of search. So there was caveats around that, but they did actually do it, and they did it on a large scale. So they've concentrated on home.kpmg to shift away from kpmg.com. So that is one of the significant moves, I think, in .brands. So that was useful to see. But in your presentation, you showed that there was some helpful growth under the .kpmg environment. Was there any indications from your research as to how that improvement was made?
I didn't go specifically in depth into that. And it's unfortunate because I don't know what their site was before that. I would say that when you do make that move, it's a great opportunity to actually reflect on what you currently have and see if there's ways that you can improve the content and the quality of the content that you have. So, I mean, going back in time, trying to see what's there it's a little challenging to do, and not being, affiliated with the project. My assumption would be that making a big move like that, they probably did a lot of reflection and looking at what it is that they have and what they can, improve upon.
Okay, I've got one final question here, Chris, and I think we'll round up on the time limit. So This is a sort of a geographical twist on this one. So do you see that SEO difference between USA-centric brands and non-US brands that are huge elsewhere but not necessarily known in the States?
You know, I would, but that comes into, again, with how you market yourself and how you create that content for your users. So, you know, I would assume that Google is aware where people are coming from and such that, you know, if let's go back to like even in a legacy standpoint, you do have like you have a .com or you have a .de or something of that nature. Those signals are going to reflect the location, and what's going to happen is typically you're going to be searching in a search engine that is in that locale. So I know Google is really smart enough to say, hey, we know where you are. We know that they have a site here. We're going to give you that site. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so I think you covered some points in the presentation where, you know, local is a component part of.
It's a big, and especially with the move to the mobile indexing approach, that means that local SEO is going to have a lot more weight. And when we think about local SEO, we're really talking about local, like within, 20, miles from your actual location where your device is and such.
Brilliant. Okay, that brings us to a close for today's webinar. Thank you all for joining us, and a huge thank you for Chris. That's been really good, great insights, and I hope people will have some great takeaways from today's webinar. Thank you so much. Bye, everybody, and stay safe.